Our guest is Kenichiro Sasae. He's ambassador from Japan to the United States, former Japanese Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs, and former Director General of the Economic Affairs Bureau. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to our program. Good to have you here.
Pleasure to see you.
How do we say hello in Japanese?
Konnichiwa.
Oh, konnichiwa.
Right.
That is correct.
Yes.
I was thinking about I should welcome you and say konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Hello. Big election recently in Japan.
Right.
Is that a cause for great excitement there?
Right. I think there is a new government now shaping up, and the Prime Minister Abe announced a series of policy orientations in which he enunciated the rebirth of Japanese economy and doing the right thing for the Japanese security and also doing more of the expansionary economic policy.
So when he is now in office, he was in office once before, wasn't he?
Right, right. And he was the prime minister one time.
Prime Minister?
Yeah. He was the youngest prime minister born after the war, actually.
So the prime minister is like the #1 person in the government, is that correct?
Right.
But also there is the emperor? Huh?
Right. Emperor is a symbol of Japan. Right.
But very well respected and revered by the people, huh?
Right, in many ways. Especially the emperor was paying a lot of visit to the tsunami-affected areas, as you know.
How is the country recovering from it was three things. It was earthquake, tsunami, and then the nuclear plant disaster.
Right.
How is the country recovering?
Yeah, well, on this earthquake and tsunami, as you know, there are a lot of dislocated people.
And 20,000 died?
Right. No, well, roughly the 16,000.
16,000?
Yeah. And the remaining, there are still missing people.
Oh, wow.
But I think most of the dislocated people, that was 400,000 people were dislocated initially. But most of people now are in tentative accommodations, and some of them are going back home, except for heavily radiated areas. So I think the reconstruction is now underway.
Mr. Ambassador, how are people recovering from this huge psychological impact? Huh?
Right. I think there was a massive impact on the people's mindset, especially the children. But I think
the children.
Yeah, right. There are a lot of care program in place by the government, and a lot of specialists working to help these people. And but gradually, I would say, people are coming back to the normal life. Of course, I think most of people are still in the tentative accommodations. So in the future, they would like to build their houses and go back to their hometown.
Where were you when that event happened? Where were you when the earthquake came?
Yes, I was working in the foreign ministry on the 4th floor. I was in the meeting, actually. That was in the afternoon.
You felt it?
Yeah, enormous shaking up. So I was trying to stay hold, but I couldn't do it. So after 1 minute or so, I quickly went out of the building, calling other people to go out, so that we shouldn't be really crashing down. But the building was surviving.
But so scary, huh?
It was so scary. Right?
Is that part of the world just susceptible to these natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, and such?
Well, for many years, there was a prediction that one time there could be an earthquake. And so people were speculating, and the experts were talking about the possibility of earthquake. But we never thought this level of earthquake hitting the regions and also causing this level of tsunami and causing this level of damage.
Yeah.
Of the sort. That was beyond the imagination, expectation.
Wow. Let me take a little break, Ambassador. We're talking with the ambassador from Japan to the United States, fairly new to Washington, at least as ambassador. The ambassador from Japan, Sasae. We'll take a little break. Back on the other side. This is America and the World. This is America is brought to you by the National Education Association, the nation's largest advocate for children and public education. Poonsong Corporation, forging a higher global standard. The Republic of Kazakhstan in the heart of Eurasia, a rich history, a culture of hospitality, and a future of development and growth. The U.S.-China Education Trust and the F.Y. Chang Foundation. The Rotendaro Family Trust, and the Embassy Series, presenting musical performances by international musicians. Mr. Ambassador, with the new government in place, we talked about the recovery. We're going to talk a little bit about the economy. Are there other challenges that the new government faces?
I think the natural crisis management is one of the agenda this new government is trying to address, especially against the background of changing security circumstance in Asia Pacific. There is more emphasis that we need to improve our security setup in many ways. That would include the strengthening of the alliance with the United States.
The relationship between Japan and the United States is crucially important, huh?
Yes, it is indeed.
Do we need each other?
We need, and to be frank, over the more than 50 or 60 years, in the post-war period, this Japan-U.S. alliance has been a linchpin of the peace and stability in the region. That would never change also in the future.
The United States is committed to the defense of Japan, is that right? Right. By treaty, is it?
Yes, and there is a security treaty and arrangement between the two countries.
So as the United States has now shifted its foreign policy focus to Asia, was that necessary? Was that called for because of the rise of China, do you think?
Well, I don't define that way.
Okay.
And I would rather define that we always need U.S. presence, political, economic, and security.
Okay.
And the presence of the United States has been always important throughout the post-war period. And that is the basis of the regional peace and stability. So when there is this pivoting and rebalancing, I think this is more of the emphasis of United States interests and also how much resources United States would like to place. That's what we welcome, and we need United States all the time. And but it is also true that there are changing security circumstances. That is one thing. North Korea. We don't think China is a threat. China is an opportunity because of their economic development. Without China, I think it's very difficult for us to have a good basis for the future economic development. That is true.
So some harmony with China?
Yeah, I think that's the strategic goal of the sort. We need to have a good relationship with China, constructive one. I think the problem, if there is any today, is that where does China go in the future as a result of economic growth and expansion? would that be translated into military power and more aggressive stance of the foreign policy? And how much is China going to spend the money on defense in the future? We don't know.
They would have military goals, territorial goals, economic goals. But really, where can they go?
I think that's some of the concern on our part. That's why we are suggesting, advising Chinese government that they need to improve the transparency, what they were trying to do, and how much they are spending, and how and where.
Now, Japan is having some head crunch with China over some islands, huh?
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? What's at stake there?
Well, as you know, when it comes to sovereignty issues, I think nobody could really have a compromise position. You know, it's a matter of 100 years of the sort. But the problem about this Chinese claim about our territory, I should say Senkaku Island, is that there was no problem in the history before. It was only late 1960s they began to claim and make explicit after there was United Nations reporting that there are massive energy resources underground. And historically, this island has been always Japanese territory. And
so it's not the island; it's what the potential is around the island.
I think they don't say it, but I think around the time when they began to assert their claim, I think it was in parallel with all this finding.
But Mr. Ambassador, Japan has also some head crunch with South Korea about islands, and with Russia about islands. Huh?
Right.
Is it territory, or is it symptomatic, or is it something that's larger that I'm not getting here?
It's territory and diplomatic, and also often the case when it comes to the management of the relationship issues, and that could see underlying trend of the relationship too. For example, with Russia, it has been a lot of problems throughout the Cold War days. They didn't even admit the existence of the problem. When we had a difficult relationship vis-a-vis the Soviet Union at the time. But somehow they began to recognize the issues. They are now ready to negotiate. And so little by little there has been progress. Without making solution to these issues, there isn't any fundamental sort of solutions, and also the big relationship to be formed. Go ahead, please.
Please, no?
But when it comes to the territorial issues with ROK, say, before we were talking on the issue, now gradually they don't want to talk. And,
they don't want to talk.
They don't want to talk, and it is also a difficult question to us. And also with China, I think they began to claim. So there is a different set of historical time span of the issues, as you know.
So history plays a role.
Right.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about Japan is an island country, right?
Right.
Many islands?
Yeah, more than 6,000 if you include smaller one. But there are 4 large ones: Hokkaido in the north, and Honshu in the center, Shikoku in the south, and the Kyushu in the west. But there are some very small islands around it.
And where is the capital located? Tokyo.
In the Honshu, it's in the center of the Honshu.
And what's the population of the country, the total?
126 million.
126 million. So it's a substantial population.
Yeah, sizable number.
What would you say are characteristics of the Japanese people?
Well, very moderate, humble, polite,
Yeah.
hardworking, and respect the harmony and the relationship of the people.
And what influences of that culture? Where did that come from?
Well, I think that would be possibly the old history where people were working together for the agriculture sake.
Oh, okay.
And all this small town, small village working together, and have to be carrying each other and so forth.
So
and small, islands.
So at one time, I guess the perception in America is they think of, samurai warriors and shoguns and the great empire of Japan. It's always been a superpower, hasn't it?
Well, yes.
Historically?
Right. It's how you would govern the country. And in many countries around the world, there is always a history that the political power is with the military power, as you know, in the history. But as a result of the democratic evolution, as you know, especially after the end of the war, even preceding the war, I think we had a history of democracy since Meiji period, since 19th century. So I think gradually we came to terms with the best way to govern the country. That is a democracy, as you know.
Is a democracy.
Right.
And it's a thriving democracy. You mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that one of the principal aims of the government was to shore up and stabilize the economy, which took a huge beating, huh?
Right.
Was that what caused the decline of the economy, and what's happening now?
I think we are facing with the common economic problems now being faced with other industrialized countries like Europe and the United States.
Like us,
yes. We have aging populations. And we have a huge government deficit. I say it's more than the double of gross, domestic product, GDP, huge amount. And also we have to improve the social welfare program like pensions, and also there is issues of improving educations, and also you have to work out the future plan of reducing the debt.
In Japan, how do they go about reducing the debt? I know that taxes play a big role there, huh?
Right. I think there was a decision taken to introduce the raising of the consumption tax. Current level is 5%. That will be going up to 8% and eventually to 10%.
And how did the citizens react to that?
Well, nobody likes to see the rise of the tax, but at the end of the day, I think people accept it, the harsh reality. That
so the consumption tax has gone up, and that will be a source of a lot of revenue, huh?
I believe so.
Okay.
But also, I think how that will be implemented will be also related to the prospect of economic growth. And,
what exciting things are happening? I mean, we know the cars and we know the electronics.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if people know the tremendous amount of scientific research that's done in Japan, probably the leader in the whole world.
Right.
What other exciting, innovative things are happening?
Well, I think if you look at the whole different kinds of products, you could name everything. But I would rather say that the new export item is this soft power of the thought, not industrial goods per se. It's more of the culture, I would say.
The culture?
Yeah. Japanese pops and Japanese anime, Japanese manga. And all.
What's manga?
Manga is comics.
Oh, manga. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's comics.
Okay.
And they are influencing and a lot of young generations around the world, and so I think even in Europe and the United States, there are young people who are going after all these Japanese pops and characters. So.
When tourism is always very big for Japan.
Right.
If people came to come and pay a visit to Japan, and you were the tour guide, what would you have them see? What would you have them experience?
Well, if you were a first visitor, I would first of all, take him or her to Tokyo. And Tokyo is the center of Japan and center of Asia and the world in many ways, both economic and cultural, I would say. And there are different variety of things, very modern Tokyo, like New York and London and Washington, other places. A lot of traffic and people going back and forth all night.
A lot of neon, a lot of
drinking place and so forth. But at the same time, there are traditional part downtown. You go and see the shrine and temples, all these, festivals going on in every different season. So even in one place, you could experience the different features of Japanese culture in different seasons.
Oh, yes.
And then I would take the people to a traditional city like Kyoto and Nara, very traditional, which show the tradition of Japan. But I would say that there is also a mixture of modern and tradition. And, for example, if you go to see Kabuki, you know Kabuki?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I've been in Tokyo.
Oh, you've been in Tokyo?
Yeah.
And there is a fusion of Kabuki and modern, I would say, pop.
That's a whole world unto itself, isn't it?
It's amazing.
The theater of Japanese tradition is just an amazing thing to experience. Yeah.
Not only this flower arrangement and tea ceremony and Japanese dancing, but the interesting is that there is new fusions of the culture. And that is what is most interesting these days. What
do you see, Mr. Ambassador, as your mission here in the United States? As you said, as we sat down, only 50, 60 days here, still things coming from Japan to get you and your wife situated?
Right, and I think, first of all, the relationship between Japan and the United States is the most important bilateral relations to us, and also possibly to the United States in many ways. And most important task is to strengthen, support this relationship. And that would include not only political and security and economic, but also people-to-people exchange and understanding. And that is easy to say, and often the case you think that you understood, but not necessarily correctly. So my job is to reach out to people, as many people as possible, not only the government and Capitol Hill and mass media, but also the grassroots people. So I like to go out of Beltway and to reach the people and have a discussion and talk with them, so that they are interested in Japan, and Japanese culture, and also Japanese things. Not only sushi and so forth. Sushi is good. You could have sushi even here in the United States these days. But if you go in Japan, you could taste real sushi, and so that could be different. And also, another thing is that I'd like to have more Japanese people coming and visit the United States. I think people need to recognize the value of each other.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And also economic terms. There are a lot of common problems we face today. And to recognize the value of each other. And we are still number one and number three in terms of size of the GDP. But in terms of quality of economic life, I think we do have a lot of things to share. And in Japan, we have a low crime rate, and people and children could walk safely, freely, late at night. And we have a punctual service. The trains comes and goes very punctually. There is a quick delivery of service everywhere. So there is a quality, society in Japan. I would like to show those aspects of Japan today to American people too.
Thank you.
There might be something that you might get.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. We've come to the end of our time, but I thank you so much for visiting with us and for educating us about Japan.
Great pleasure.
Thank you.
You very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For information about my new book, The Chance of a Lifetime, and online video for all This Is America programs, visit our website, thisisamerica.net. And now you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This Is America is brought to you by the National Education Association, the nation's largest advocate for children and public education. Poonsong Corporation, forging a higher global standard. The Republic of Kazakhstan in the heart of Eurasia, a rich history, a culture of hospitality, and a future of development and growth. The U.S.-China Education Trust and the F.Y. Chang Foundation. The Rotendaro Family Trust. And the Embassy Series, presenting musical performances by international musicians.